Hi, everybody. My name is Rob Lutzkus. I oversee operations for Lonza Informatics. Much like Jeremy had mentioned earlier, Lonza does a lot of things, and we have a software division. I run that software division for all of the development, testing, validation, implementation, and sales support, post-implementation support. So we have this entire group in which we support internal projects and external projects. So we have an external group of customers that we focus on, as well as just our internal implementations.
Hi, I'm Emily Cook. I'm a senior product manager at Apprentice, and I'm also a member of Bioforum and the work stream for the MES of the future. I've been in the MES industry my entire professional career, so I've seen it in its glory when it saves the day, and I've also seen it in the trenches in 2 a.m. production critical issue calls. So it's definitely a passion project and topic of mine. I'm excited to be here today.
All right, yeah, Thomas Hoffman. So I'm with NNIT. I'm the global head for production and laboratory. I'm always saying I can't do anything else than MES and Pharma because I'm doing that for so long now. Started in the mid-90s somewhere, and never left the space. So, and it's exciting to see that there are still so many things going on, so many innovation also, in particular in production. Yeah, I mean, I would like to kick off that panel with a question. And again, just to say, the fishbowl means we are sitting here in the fishbowl. So, and you're looking from the outside into the fishbowl, but I mean, everybody is invited to join us here in the fishbowl, obviously. Yeah. So, I mean, we are talking to you, but you can talk to us and join the discussion on the panel at any time. Yeah, I mean, I would like to kick that panel discussion, that fishbowl discussion off with a question of alluding a little bit to what Charlie and I were just talking about, but also in some of the other presentations that we had earlier. I mean, what from your point of view also as a vendor, as a product supplier, what do you think would be the most prominent differentiating factor for MES in the future?
Want to take that first?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So I think there's a couple things, but one that is a personal pet peeve of mine, actually, of traditional MES systems, is that they're not designed for the people who know the process. So MES of the future, and you talked a little bit about it in the presentation before this, should be for the process people. The same people who are authoring, modifying recipes today on paper should easily be able to do so in an MES product. You shouldn't have to spin up large IT teams or MES resources that are really hard to come by and expensive. It should be as easy as using Google Docs.
To piggyback on that, I think that's a great point. For me, I think it's flexibility. As we've seen in numerous presentations, the ability to manufacture things differently. All the lines aren't designed the same anymore. All the facilities aren't designed the same. I was just mentioned the languages. So being able to make it super flexible and also easy to design lends to that flexibility. So if you have that complicated workflow builder or complicated recipe builder, you're inherently not going to be able to make it flexible unless you become an expert in it. And even then, you're generally jumping through hoops to facilitate that.
Yeah, I mean, there are already not totally two distinct opinions about how the MES in the future would look like, and I would like to add a third one to that. And I think everybody has his or her own view on what the MES of the future look like, depending also a little bit where you're coming from. I mean, what is the production modality that you have and so on and so forth. So being involved not necessarily in the operations of MES in my life, I mean, I was always involved in the implementation part of it. So, and one of the questions that I got more and more often in the last few years is, well, why does it take so long to implement an MES? Yeah? And I mean, we did a survey in 2019 about MES implementation, and the average time was about 1 month to 1 year to 2 years for
I was about to
MES.
say 1 month,
would be, 1 month would be great, and we don't need to talk about that. You are right. No, it was 1 year to 2 years in the average. So we had whatever categories, but this is where more than 50% of the projects were saying, or the response was saying that it's about 1 year to 2 years for an implementation. But if you're talking then to a production responsible, head of production and so on, they're saying, no, I mean, that's way too long. I mean, a year, okay, but not 2 years. Yeah. And this is also where I think, besides the flexibility and things that you said, is that we need to get faster in order to bring MES to life. Because I mean, this is a product implementation that heavily impacts manufacturing. And this is drawing your best resources away from production, actually. It's not like, I always compare that with an SAP project. I'm not an SAP guy at all, but the way I've seen SAP implementing is there's an army of people coming in, and you need a couple of people also from the manufacturing side, but it's actually a project team that is coming like a swarm, putting SAP in, leaving, going to the next site, putting SAP in. You can't do that with an MES. And one of the things I think that is important when you're implementing an MES is absolutely sound and thorough process understanding. Because I think it was David in the first presentation that we heard this morning, where David was saying, this is an opportunity to improve also your business processes. And you can't implement an MES. You can't improve your business processes if you don't understand your current processes. That's one thing. The other thing is, and this is why also an MES cannot be implemented by just taking the best people out of your manufacturing site. You always need also the people who understand the MES solution. Because you cannot, business process improvement is one thing, but exploiting all the possibilities that an MES solution is giving you, you need to understand how that particular MES, what kind of features the particular MES provides and opportunities to improve also the processes. And I think if we ask somebody, I mean, is there anybody, Charlie, of course, would join. What is your take on what is the differentiating factor of the MES of the future? Can you take a mic so then?
So there's a great book called The Toyota Way, all right? So it takes what you said, it's a process engineer working with that IT person. I don't think you're going to get rid of that person, but you're going to put that person...
The mic closer.
Oh, put that person in a different role. And so you build cross-functional teams as opposed to have, MS&T and tech dev hand.
We have a whole world outside here. They need to listen to you.
And so and then just hand a tech transfer document and say good luck. That's what we're doing now. You actually need the recipe author to be involved in the development of the tech transfer document as a cross-functional team and give the process engineer some recipe authoring skills, but it goes back to my earlier point, which is in Lean Six Sigma, there's what's called standard work. That means everybody speaks the same language, and at master data piece, which I'm the zealot of, if I get the MS&T and the researcher and tech dev and the recipe author all using the same objects, you suddenly are able to put process together as a Lego model. And one thing that I use, if everybody have kids and build Legos with their kids, if you open up a Lego instruction manual, what don't you see? Words. What do you see? Symbols and colors. And if you pick up 15 Lego instruction manuals, SOPs, they have the same symbols. So guess how they can make 400 different models and produce them really fast? Their method of instruction is a standard work process. And they apply, so using a Toyota way, cross-functional teams, earlier in the process will produce, in my view, a recipe, a better recipe faster.
Could one argue that if it is built very easy to build, that your manufacturing experts could be taught to be a master of the tool? Therefore, it's not a team.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're going to go that far.
Well, I mean, one of your last slides in the presentation was talking about kind of horizontally scaling across the drug life cycle. To your point, if we want to do that, you have to empower your process scientists to be able to use a tool earlier in the process and it has to be a natural tool, just as natural as documenting what you're doing on paper.
Right. Yeah, I mean, one of the challenges that we've seen throughout Lonza, so a little background with Lonza, they take a choose-your-own-adventure approach to MESs. With Pokemon, we collect them all. You pick a facility, we have them all. And that's actually been focused on the strategy of picking the best one for the solution. And so it's a decision matrix when we do an acquisition or a divestment or build a new facility, and say, well, which one of these solutions is going to be best and why? And when you go through that decision matrix, it's understanding that we need to pick the solution that is focused on not only the manufacturing modality, but also the technology is going to be in place there and the population. I think it's been referenced in multiple presentations at this point that it's hard to find good people. It's even harder to keep good people. There's this void of people that are becoming experts and staying for 20, 30, 40 years in a position or a company to build all of that internal expertise. So speaking the same language becomes even that much more important from company to company to company, so you now have this industry standard. And we're trying to build that within Lonza as well. So when we're looking at the best-in-class solution for whatever we're going to be doing there, that's then taking that language and having the Syncade team or the Wareham team or the Rockwell team or the Moda team all being able to say, let's do this the right way.
Darren Powell, Bayer. So we have a large...
Colin, sorry, can you take the mic? Because always remember, there are also people online, they don't hear you.
People want me to shut up.
So you can also take the seat and be part of the panel.
It's fine. Darren Powell, I'm from Bayer. We have large numbers of manufacturing facilities doing multiple things across the globe. And we also had a collect them all kind of an attitude. The thing is that for us, it was really hard for us to manage to get any kind of a global or regional alignment within all of that kind of data, all those manufacturing processes, and all those other things. How do you address that if you embrace the fact that everybody, these guys want Rockwell, these guys want Somatic? I'm curious on how you manage to keep things aligned, and especially when you look at it from a global standpoint and when you look at it from a shareholder standpoint, because of the technical debt that represents.
Yeah, it's a process, and it's not a perfect one yet. There's been some challenges trying to get some alignment. One of the things that has happened over time is that the teams have become more aligned in that consolidated approach. It was almost West Side Story-ish for a while, where people were fighting about what was the best solution for a particular site or plant. And as the leadership has changed, they've encouraged us to kind of all work as a combined team. So then Lonza spun up a transformation and data team because they have some unique challenges for data harmonization between systems, but also the CDMO arm has issues with getting data back out to customers. So there's this harmonization of data that's going on and then a portal that's being built to put that back out for customers to be able to consume the data. And customers in this sense could be external customers or they could be internal customers as well. But understanding that every customer doesn't necessarily need every piece of data. So what is the minimum amount of data that you start with and then build from there? And what's the use case around adding additional data to that data structure to continue to build that out? So starting small and then continue to expand that gives you the ability to pick some very specific points. Give us a pass-fail out of the system. Start there. Did it pass? Did it fail? Okay, if it failed, Do we have some excursions or deviations in associated kappas? What was the reason? Then a few key KPIs for those manufacturing runs, because whether you're looking at yield for cell and gene therapy or number of discarded vials for fill finish, whatever that is, it's all how good was our process. So being able to really acutely define some of those things and look at it at that larger level and continue to grow that out.
And I do have another, somewhat related, not quickly related to it. So you talk is MES conference. So obviously we're talking about MESs, right? Well, if you have differing levels of automation and different manufacturing systems across the world, then sometimes you only need an MIS. You don't need an MES. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about the MES of the future. Is there an MIS of the future, or as MIS advances, it evolves into MES?
So, I loved your last slide. Go ahead.
Yeah, please start. But I want to talk about the services.
Yeah. So, he made an excellent point in his presentation that the nomenclature, I don't think matters in the future. It's all about composable functionality for your use case. And you made an excellent point where we almost need to do some domain stealing from the tech world. They apply agile to everything. You define a tiny little sprint and you have a goal for that sprint. What are we going to do? What are we going to define, configure, and validate in this tiny little sprint and add value quickly? So I think acronyms are going to dissolve, and it's going to be more, what's the use case you're looking for? Let's piece it together with our common core pieces from the standards, really.
Yeah, I mean, as a sort of one of the slides, I mean, I could see in the future that we have a platform. Is it called MES? Is it called MIS? Is it called whatever? Yeah, where you have services residing on that platform, and you just whatever take the services as you need. So I don't know from a vendor point of view, there could be also kind of different pay models, because some of the things that we are seeing when we are talking about startups, small cell and gene therapy. So do they need at the beginning when they have 10 patients a year? I mean, do they need the full-blown MES, which costs them whatever, $3.5 million just upfront? So, I mean, make the math in order for each batch, and you add an electronic system on top of the price of the batch. So, but you probably at the beginning need only, let's say, some services of what compromises an MES today, or the concept of an MES today. So at the end of the day, I think what we are talking about is that manufacturing operations management concept as it is laid out in ISO 95 and the other documents that Charlie has presented. But that as part of that concept, it's more about, well, obtaining services out of that platform, wherever that platform is. I mean, is it in the cloud or is it not in the cloud? That is a different point that I would like to make a little bit later in that discussion. That's what I'm thinking. And coming back to your point, MIS, MES, I think that becomes more and more blurry. I mean, we see the same currently, I think, already in the laboratories happening. Is it the LIMS or is it LAS?
LAS,
Yeah.
Harish Narayan from Millipore Sigma. So we're both a vendor, but we also have our own plant. So we face it from sort of both sides of the equation. So thank you so much for sharing your experiences and thoughts here. But my question broadly was, so a lot of, you have existing MES systems, new companies, let's say Apprentice right now. To really scale up, to get to this notion of modularized services, consume the service that you want, so to speak, how much do you feel to get there, the acceleration would have to happen where we use a lot of the existing available digital platforms which are not pharma specific? I heard at one of the initial talks that for a lot of the middleware you could just use Delboomi or MuleSoft, for instance. So I'm just curious, for an industry like this, has that started? Will it sort of accelerate? I know in one of the previous presentations we talked about collaborations that are required. I'm just curious from your viewpoints from different companies or expertise, where do you see this going to accelerate this for other implementations?
So I'll start. Yeah, I mean, we see a lot of overlap. Everyone's MES journey is, or platform journey is a little bit different. When Jeremy presented those case studies earlier, that's a small subset of everyone's starting point being different. You have mature facilities, you have small facilities, you have these people with a dream. And so understanding some of the background of the people with those starting points. So we do have customers where they're implementing tools that we've never seen in pharma before. But I think that makes it all the more critical to have a tool that is very flexible and integratable at a variety of different levels. I think a lot of the IT infrastructure around the way APIs are structured and some of the standard languages for communication there help facilitate that, because whether you're talking to another enterprise system outside of pharma or within pharma, being able to manage that data, pull that in, and then send it back out all securely and quickly and repeatably, I think that levels the playing ground on what kind of tools you're able to talk to. So I think it started a little bit, but again, a lot of it depends on where people are in their journey.
And their comfort level. I think we're going to see a divergence over the next 5 to 10 years. I think our standard platforms and the concept of a platform with an MES and an LES and a CMMS and all that, that'll exist for the players that love that and it works for them, the big biotechs that have had that for 10 years and it works, and that's okay. But I think we're going to see more of this platform with services on top of it, that if you just need basic procedures and you're a small startup in preclinical, why not just activate your little procedures service and be on your merry way. But I think, you know, we're also still seeing and going to see more of the startups that really just want to do their own thing and configure and customize out the wazoo just for fun. I think we're going to see that too. So it's going to be interesting to see how the 3 different paths either eventually converge or just continue to be 3 different variations.
Yeah, as we are not a solution provider, we are implementing MES solutions for our customers. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of different MES solutions and different type of customers, obviously. And I think we also need to acknowledge that there is a huge install base out there. I mean, you're not going to go to one of these larger corporations having done their MES programs for the last 20 years and already having this 2nd or 3rd generation of their MESs globally rolled out and just disrupt that and say, okay, let's put everything out, put a cloud platform in. So this is, first of all, this is probably not going to happen. And I mean, companies like Bayer, for example, that have a one vendor strategy, probably continue for a while with that as well. But the other thing that we are seeing is there is a bit of, and I don't want to name any specific solution here, there is a bit of inflexibility with these traditional MES solutions which have that traditional on-premise client-server database architecture. Especially inflexibility when it is about we need to add new features, new processes to that, and we are talking about solutions that requires heavy customization. So I think what we will see is more and more kind of hybrid solutions in that context, so that these traditional, let's call it that way, in lack of better word from my end, MES solutions will continue to exist, but that we are adding cloud-based or not cloud-based services to that MES. So, but this requires a minimum of integration capabilities so that you can still exchange data. So for example, if you need a dashboard, it's one of the projects that we recently did. So you need a dashboard, and that MES doesn't provide that particular dashboard. So it was a dashboard where we wanted to see across several batches that were produced at the same time, what is the status of these batches during manufacturing, see that in real time. So that didn't exist, couldn't be done. It would need heavy customization on that particular MES solution. So what we did is we put an MES Microsoft Power BI dashboard on top of that. So the time to develop that compared to the time that would have needed to customize that MES was negligible. I mean, this was 6 weeks in development versus more than a year. And not talking about the costs, right? So, and what I could imagine that for specific services that are needed, be it planning, be it dashboarding, be it advanced analytics and so on, we are seeing more and more that kind of hybrid solutions. Also talking about more that, let's say, traditional pharma, where these MES solutions are very, very strong. Yeah. Cell and gene therapy, advanced medical therapeutics, and so on, maybe, and most likely, and it was mentioned in some of these presentations today, and some of our customers are saying the same, they don't have an appetite to create their own IT department that is managing all that infrastructure that is required. So they are probably going more for that platforms in the cloud kind of solutions. But what we what we most likely need in all of the MES solutions, and this is why I see also the so-called traditional MES solutions more and more evolving into that direction, is more flexibility to adapt new processes, and changes in the processes.
So that actually sparks a question. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
real quick. With the focus on analytics and all of the buzzwords that fly around the industry, one of the ones that everyone's talking about now is predictive analytics.
Yep.
Is that a real need? Is that a partial need? Is that something that you think that a lot of the solutions should be able to offer, or need to be able to figure out how to offer, whether it's through things like Power BI, plugins, integrations, or specialized solutions? Like, do you see, I don't necessarily see a huge push for predictive analytics from the traditional, historically big MES solutions. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think if you just look at the manufacturing and what is going on the shop floor, probably there's not a huge need for predictive analytics. I'm a photographer, so if you, take your lens out and put a wide angle lens on that and saying, okay, I'm looking a little bit broader, and not only just on manufacturing, but I look also into the supply chain and how the supply chain is connected with manufacturing. So I have a planning to do, and then I would like to release my product at one point in time. And that's one of the points I wanted to make is, well, where quality control processes are coming closer and closer to the manufacturing space to go for real-time release eventually at the end of the day. I think if we apply that wide-angle view, there is a need for predictive analytics. If you're just saying, okay, my interest is manufacturing and to get my batch done, probably not.
Do you think it's a need for predictive analytics or data accessibility? Like,
yeah, well, no predictive. There's no predictive analytics
right,
without
but
data.
So I dug into this in my last role and interviewed a ton of different manufacturers, and everybody has different use cases for analytics. Everybody already has their own data hubs. They just want to get the data out of the MES. I had a friend joke with me that MES is where data goes to die. like intense, but unfortunately true. So I think MES of the future, the first step, we want to get to predictive analytics, but the first step is, let's just expose the data, open APIs, standard protocols. That should be the norm. It's expected now in 2022 of software.
Yeah, and also coming back to I forgot your name, sorry, the gentleman from Millipore, what he said. I mean, we need to have integration layers at one point in time in order to get that data out of our machines and out of our equipment. So Del Bumi and others, I mean, that will be part of our manufacturing infrastructure. I'm pretty certain about that, yeah.
Hello, I have a question. Thank you for this. It's been very informative. I'm Gina Barry from Allogene Therapeutics. We're a CAR T cell therapy startup, also implementing MES. I have challenging opinion where throughout the day I felt that I've heard a lot of the end goal was to get paper out of the GMP environment and like get the data out of MES, right? But I feel like the way that we've been characterizing MES of the future, these are ultimately just byproducts of when you implement an execution system. Right now, what I see, like my background is CMC, so safety, comparability, verification, that's like where my heart and head is at. And dealing with all of these different incoming vendors, there's a lot of upstream paperwork and different modalities that are coming into my system. So yes, I implement an MES for my manufactured product, but that doesn't really present control for what's coming in. Mm-hmm. And I just want to know where you guys think that's going to go for the future.
So in my opinion, MES is always just part of the solution, but could you extend that MES to manage other areas of where that paperwork's coming in? And I think you made an important point about paperless being the end goal. That's everyone's end goal. But we actually had a customer call recently where they wanted, their desire to go paperless was actually creating work. They were adding so many extra steps just to check the box to say they were paperless. And it's, why don't you just attach it to your MES? The paper's already there. It's already filled out, it's already done. As soon as it gets into your process, just attach it. And put some data security or electronic signatures or something around it. So I think the misconception of going paperless has to be the stated end state in all areas of the end-to-end, from supply chain through putting it back into the patient or whatever that is. And so could you use the tools that are available and that you're implementing to solve a problem in a different way? And if not, then are there other solutions that should supplement that MES solution?
Right.
Sorry. So I'm going to be controversial and agree with my friend from Bayer. The MES in this industry has one goal. Thomas had it on the slide. Batch product release. So the information you collect is for generally one purpose. And what you just said was a step in the transformation from paperless to an electronic batch record for batch release. This is part of the problem, is that you're only collecting those critical process parameters and critical quality attributes for batch release. This has nothing to do with the data set for continuous improvement or kappa resolution or investigation. It fails miserably, that data set.
But this,
but let me finish. So the data you need to collect, which is collected in most other industries, from my friend over here in semiconductor, is all the process information into a batch genealogy of the run. So when you investigate something, you can go all the way down to the action and know what happened. And that's the problem, is the record we're creating is not for knowledge management, it's for batch release.
Just one thought to that, Charlie. I agree. If you're saying my project, if you so call, is to implement a paperless batch record, absolutely right. I mean, we're implementing MES to get to a confirmation of our GMP compliant batch processing. However, my plea is always, don't go for an MES in order to implement an electronic batch record. An MES is a part of a digitalization journey. And as part of that digitalization journey, you need to look at all of the data. You need to look at holistically at your manufacturing operations environment. You need holistically into your entire supply chain, and this is the supply chain processes, and as one of that supply chain processes manufacturing, and it's the downstream supply chain, it's also quality control, because it doesn't help you if you implement an MES and then you have still paper in your quality control lab and you get still not your product out of the door. So if you agree on that MES is part of a full digitalization journey, then it's paperless at the end of the day, ideally, but it is also having access to all of the data that only not helps you to have the batch release at the end of the day electronically, but also the other things that you mentioned, like continuous improvement.
But so Biopharma, they wrote the knowledge management user specification, which is a wonderful document that based on Q12 of ICH.
Yep.
And that's really driving the whole concept of, because I get in this debate with people all the time, is it a thin batch record or collect all the data and make it a big fat batch record? All right, and I think there's a happy medium based on what you're trying to improve, not just what you're trying to release. And I think the ICH12 life cycle specification and the Biopharma knowledge management specification, that's what they're trying to say, evolve the MES to.
Yep.
Okay.
I think we get ourselves in trouble by wanting to go full paperless, wanting to automate everything, wanting everything to be digital, but I don't know if we ask ourselves enough, am I over-engineering this? Like, I'm a chemie, I do that all the time. My husband's like, what are you doing? This solution is so simple. How often do we do that and we automate what we don't need to automate?
The other question is, are we mature enough from an organizational point of view? And are we mature enough also from an architectural point of view?
Yeah.
I think some of it comes back around to where we started with regard to that alphabet soup of systems. If you're putting in an MES and you're using it for what an MES was built for, then that is what your MES is built for, and that's what it should be used for. If you're putting in a digital solution that is supposed to do more than what a traditional MES is going to do, then the expectation is that it's going to do more than an MES is, and you shouldn't call it an MES. You should call it a platform or a system or this or whatever you're going to call it. And the expectation is then you find that happy medium to capture the batch information and the logs and the this and the that while you're implementing the solution without necessarily over-engineering it.
I think we got a little bit sidetracked in regards of your question, right?
So my question to you, sir, would be to what and to whom are you releasing to, right? Because I've been hearing this iteration that, oh, we want to go digital, and to me, these are all just like byproducts of implementing MES. You get paper off the floor, you have integration with the system, data integrity is ultimately just a byproduct. We don't want to sacrifice quality for just the sake of digitization, right? And
To your predictive modeling question, I disagree. Because in the first 2 years of every BLA product, there's typically an average of 1,000 to 2,000 deviations. And by actually doing some predictive analytics, you can probably reduce that number of deviations in the first 2 years of a new product release. So, and digitization for the sake of digitization, what I just said was, we just digitized and created 2,000 deviations. So,
right. So that's microphone. So I just feel that just the standard, just as the industry is dynamic, the standardizations also need to be dynamic. And then, of course, everybody's ultimate goal for a company is to reach commercialization and then eventually go global. And then, of course, when we go to different countries, there's different, we have the FDA requirements, the European requirements, Asia, China, they all have different requirements. So safety, comparability, and sustainability across all platforms is really important to maintain. However, I feel in the MES world, our client really isn't contrary to popular belief, our client isn't really the patient. It is the end users on the floor that we're trying to cater to make sure that we have that optimization of the product the process to get them out of the manufacturing floor as quick as possible, and that's through our integrations. So my next question is, when you have these different processes and these different equipments, like ultimately serial equipments that are made by companies who are more or less monopolies, that they're holding captive that data, how do you propose integration with that, and how does that drive towards this future? So to my point earlier, you say no?
Good work. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Really.
I mean, it's easy for me to sit here as Bayer saying, "Oh, we just won't write you checks because we write checks that they will pay attention to." When you're a startup, they're like, get away, you bother me. And the thing is, what you struggle with, and what a lot of people struggle with, is digital transformation only makes sense where it adds value to your company. That's it. Not everybody is meant to be the Amazon of X, right? Not everybody was meant to do these sort of things. What you have to be very careful and very, very astute in your looking at adopting emerging technologies or adoption, existing technologies. So you're saying that you really want to simplify things for the shop floor people. You want to make sure that those. I mean, do you? I mean, do the shop floor people really want a lot of the innovations that you're putting in? And if they do, then maybe what you're looking for is not necessarily an MES solution. It's a different kind of solution. Do you think? Here, I'll let you.
No, because to the data integrity point, where we have multiple deviations coming up from process, the whole point of an MES is to reduce operator error, right? And it's supposed to help them. So if they're not understanding the system, and that proposes a risk to our product. So we ultimately,
I think
So, that's a project. You need buy-in for your people, like for any project.
in the beginning. Agreed.
Yeah. It's
So she said that's a project.
That's project.
Project failure. But really I think that a lot of what people, this is a struggle. This is a struggle with any MES implementation, any large scale IT implementation at all, is where is your digital acumen? Where is your fluency there, right? Are people ready to actually have a large scale implementation of an IT solution? Because if your people aren't ready to adapt it or adopt it and to use it in an effective way, then you're setting yourself up for a lot of trouble. We've done that. I've done that in multiple corporations. I've seen it happen. So
I'm going to be a little contrarian here in the sense that I think all of these are good points, and I think that you could wrap a little bit around DI and data structure in a manual solution. So you're expecting a pH, so this is a minimum value, this is a maximum value, it's got to be a decimal, it's got to be this. And it's not perfect, but it's there. But there's also solutions popping up that will put a little IoT device on a serial and just yank the data out for you and then make it available. So it's kind of like the when you jailbreak your Fire Stick. I mean, it's not the right way to do it, but it's a way to do it. And if that's the goal, if the goal isn't to obviously be manual, you don't want the PC there where they're manually putting that in and having a second person verify that real time. And the DI around data structure and time and associated with that manual entry isn't enough, then it becomes being a little creative. And if that's the end goal, can you be creative to do that? But for every one of the points, it's going to be different. Your operators want that. I have operators that would scream if I had made them do that. So it's understanding your operators, your process, your MES, and what you can do with it, and trying to draw that line in a way that is logical for the project, for the product, for the users, and for the owners.
I think we're already in a very heated discussion, and I get already some signals about the time. So, but before I pose the last question, I will give you a chance in order to make a remark or whatever you would like to do.
Oh, yeah. So thank you.
feel honored here just to be in your presence. It's just this information is
Talking about
just
Thomas,
amazing.
right?
Yeah.
So everybody, really. So my name is Nishith Upadhyay, and I'm with Gilead. And my background is automation. And it's come a long way since I've been in the industry, and it's become more mature over time, and language becomes more common. And you can also see the S88 model and how we communicate with one another in that arena. What I see a lot of people arguing about and discussing is, that what I used to call levels of automation that I always had conversation about. It's levels of MES that are required for an organization, right? So we're always, thinking that, a bigger, more robust MES is like the Holy Grail, right? Whereas it might be more problematic. So, our organization, some of my colleagues, we're discussing the level of automation or the level of MES required for some of the things that we're doing. And we're debating that more MES may not be fit for purpose, right? And so all of your conversations have really, in my mind, the last 30 minutes have put the concept of maybe there are different classes of MES systems that we've not even talked about yet. Maybe it exists, but there's a debate of what's better, what's worse, but it may be quantifiable, maybe, and I'd like your thoughts on that to see if that's a developing possibility or am I just going nuts? Thank you.
Well, thanks very much. Sorry.
I completely agree. Another stealing from the tech world again. There's the MVP concept, right? But if you think about your need of transportation, if I need to go from here to my room, I can walk. That's paper, right? I can get a skateboard, $20 maybe, like super cheap ride. That's a little better. I could get a Toyota Camry, or I could get a Tesla. And there's different variations of solving the same problem, and maybe there's different problems of magnitude. If I need to get to the airport, a skateboard's not gonna cut it. But if I only need to get to my hotel room, skateboard's great. So I think there are gonna be levels of MES robustness and complexity.
And to that
Short.
Sure.
So I hate the word MES. It's useless because of that point. I can leave it there if you want. But ISA 95, the way it's developed as a MOM strategy, I can take you down through the different parts of Part 3 for the 4 activities, and in different industries, the form of MES and the business purpose and the role is different from company to company, business to business, product to product, whether it's for quality, for an EBR, or whether it's for feeding the pig MES for reconciliation of material. So it depends on the purpose of the application for workflow execution, all right? But at the end of so that's why I like where this gentleman's going is you still need manufacturing information and knowledge management to do continuous improvement and new product innovation.
So last one, and then I make my final statement. And because there's so many networking opportunities that we have here. So there are the breaks, and then we have the dinner. So, and then we can continue all that conversations.
This was just a brief comment on Emily's remark about how to get to the airport. So one alternative is to take an Uber, right?
Yeah.
And an Uber is, if you're in Old Town, for example, about $10, except for if you're going at 4 o'clock in the morning and it's like $60 because of demand and surge pricing. And for me, the MES is really all about that and how the MES works for different companies in different industries. It has to be value driven. And that value is very, very different depending on the circumstances and depending on the company's needs.
Absolutely. And just referring once for the last time to ISA 95, there is, I think in Part 3, Charlie knows that better than I am, but there is a list of business drivers. And the business drivers for implementing MES or digitalization of production are varying from company to company, from site to site. And this is what you're saying, and this is absolutely important. I mean, it needs to contribute value. And we need to identify what are the value that we're expecting from digitalization, that we're expecting from MES. So one last question, and very, very short answer, and then we are going to the break. So when will the MES of the future happen?
Now.
Now.
Yeah.
Same. Now.
Okay, there you
Short and
have
sweet.
it.
All right, so we are in the middle of the MES of the future. Thanks very much.
Thanks, folks.